Hi everyone. I've got this hat on because I'm hiding my hair. Hasn't been done yet, so I'm not revealing it on camera just yet. But how are you guys doing? It's a wonderful day. No, it's not. It's not a wonderful day, but it's it's still another day in which we're alive, so can't complain. I wanted to come online today to talk about a thought that I had. What else is new? Um, this time it actually is about gang stalking. I keep thinking, and I can't get it out of my head. I keep thinking about something another TI said to me about gang stalking, and it has to do with finances. Now, I've heard personally that higher up gang stalkers, gang stalkers with money, in order to get away with many of the crimes that they're getting away with, they low-key have to hand over all their resources to the syndicate that's responsible for our gang stalking, or whichever syndicate is responsible for each client's or each case. You know what I mean? I'm a case study, right? Every targeted individual is a case study. So whichever syndicate is responsible for each TI's case, as soon as the gang stalkers join, the higher end gang stalkers join, they have to hand over their property to the syndicate. Apparently that's part of the deal. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but these are the multiple reasons why I think it could be true. First of all, you are exchanging property for immunity from prosecution. That's what you're exchanging the property for, okay? Crimes of gang stalkers range from mild vandalism to literal murder, okay? And the paperwork that has to be buried on these crimes being committed daily, the vandalism, the break-ins, the poisonings, like there are so many daily crimes that are being committed against TIs every day. Those things have to be covered up. That's a lot of paperwork to bury the paperwork. Do you know what I mean? It's a lot of, it's a lot of paperwork to bury the paperwork. That costs money. And then on top of that, you have to think about the targeted individuals and the perps. Both the perps and the targeted individuals are unlawful experimentees. It's just that in the perps case, they actually consent. The TIs do not consent. And because the perps consent, they're treated as being more important and more vital to the program than they actually are. They can easily be replaced. They can be replaced even more easily than TIs. Do you understand what I mean? So, nevertheless though, both perps and TIs are insured. Literally everything that classifies as an asset must be insured. Okay? If I'm going to be experimented on with electronic weapons, if I'm going to be tortured with electronic weapons, both myself and the electronic weapons, they have to be insured. Why do you think they're only slowly killing me? They're not killing me quickly. I'm not being killed quickly with the weapons. Do you understand what I mean? I'm not being killed quickly with these weapons. So what has to happen is that I have to be killed slowly, not only to ascertain the results of the slow kill torture, but also to preserve as much money as possible. When you are killed outright, this is the thing. The way this torture works, they make TIs beg for death. But the truth of the matter is that the gang stalkers are not going to kill you quickly unless they have no other choice. Because it costs money to kill you. When they kill you, they lose a significant amount of money through killing you outright. So this is the way that they play it. Because we're all insured. Now, that's the second reason. The third reason actually comes back to the first one. Once again, there is complete immunity from the crimes being committed here, right? Think about what's being exchanged here. Now, even though in the long run, assets mean more than being able to get away with crimes, yet assets mean more, this is the thing about the syndicates responsible for gang stalking. They know the perp's mind better than anyone. They know the perps will jump at the chance to feel better about themselves, even when they don't deserve it, even when they're doing it through torturing another person. The perps that they've chosen are likely to be narcissists or those with BPD. So they're likely to either seek validation through constantly draining someone else's energy, or they will need an outlet for energy that they can't necessarily control. So the third thing is that it's quite a big exchange, because you're exchanging your assets, you're exchanging your ownership for the ability to commit crimes and be protected literally by the state. Because the thing is, it's a network within a network. And that network is part of state, it's part of emergency services, it's part of all these different things, right? It's part of emergency services, it's part of the psychiatric unit, it's part of defense systems. Literally, it's like, you know, this network is like a little spider, like a little group of spiders that infiltrate every single system. So what you're exchanging in return for your possessions is protection, is, you know, generational protection against you. Well, it's generational protection for you committing crimes. So when you're a high ranking targeted individual, or you're a high earning targeted individual, you're living in a house and you're basically enjoying property that isn't yours. It's not yours. It's not yours. Because in order to be part of the syndicate, you got to hand that shit over. And guess what? If you even think about saying, you know what, I want more money. Remember, as a perp, your insurance premiums are likely to be lower because there are more perps than TIs. So as a perp, your insurance is likely to be lower. They can afford to kill you more than they can afford to kill us. So if you even think about saying, nah, fuck that. If you are going to get me to do this, I want to hang on to my fucking money. You can get a percentage, but I don't think so. You're not taking shit from me. They can just kill you, replace you with someone else. Especially if you've got a really bad criminal record. They can just fucking replace you. They don't care. They don't give a shit. They'll just replace you. You're easily replaced. You'd be surprised at the amount of people willing to do this. So, you know, those are three major reasons why I think that, you know, three major reasons why I think property is exchanged for the right to commit crimes. The fourth reason is, like I said before, you know, once again, that comes back to number one as well. Because the psychiatric institutions, they have to be paid. The defense systems, they have to be paid. The military has to be paid. Certain government officials have to be paid to turn a blind eye. There are so many people that have to be paid. How are those payments going to be sustained without some form of collateral, or without some form of, is it called collateral? No, it's like none of these things can be paid for without some form of, you know, of land ownership or house ownership to fall back on. I don't know what it's called. It's not collateral, but it's something. It's like these properties that are being annexed from higher earning people is collateral just in case something goes wrong. You know, they contribute towards the insurance. They contribute towards the payments. So, in a way, when you're a gang stalker, all you're really doing is you're ensuring that properties and land rights and money goes to an increasingly few group of people, like a decreasing group of people belonging to major syndicates that are responsible for gang stalking. So the job of the perps is not actually to kill us. Sure, they're supposed to kill us through our nervous system. They're supposed to kill us through causing us pain. They're supposed to kill us in multiple different ways. But the point is not actually to kill us. You got to remember to follow the money. Follow the money. All these people, as a targeted individual, calling you crazy, calling you deluded, they are being paid to do so. So if they are being paid to do so, it stands to reason that the actual ownership of property, the ability to get on the property ladder, the ability to own land, all these things are being sacrificed to be able to get away with committing crimes for free. So even though I don't know for sure that syndicate thing is true, I think it could be, because there's way too much money in this gang stalking shit. There's just way too much fucking money. The amount of insurance that has to be paid out, the amount of hush money that has to be paid out. I think the fuck not. There ain't no way that they're gonna allow some 2-bit narcissist to get away with what they're doing unless there was a price tag for it. You remember what they said about celebrities holding black cards? And being given black cards, those black cards being, a combination of debt and an allowance. That's what this is like. That's what this is like. You don't get into a wealthy man's circle without paying for a sacrifice. Without a sacrifice, sorry. Those people at the top sacrifice their souls for an unlimited budget that's not theirs. And that's essentially what the gang stalkers do. They sacrifice their souls for an unlimited budget that's not theirs, and most of them are not going to benefit from, because they're only going to get coupons out of it? Maybe a couple of extra toys. That's it. What are you signing over in return? You're signing over rights to your property. At least with myself as a targeted individual, if I did own property and I didn't have any family, it would go to the state. So it would be another layer, another group of people that would have the property first, or hold on to the property first before it moves on to the syndicate. That creates a lot of complexity. That creates a lot of problems. It doesn't go straight to the syndicate. If you're a TI, and let's just say you're a TI, and in the absolutely impossible event that you lose all your rights to your property, it goes to the state. It doesn't go to the syndicate. It goes to the fucking state. And there are all kinds of paperwork to bury the paperwork, to hand over the stuff to the syndicate. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? There are extra steps that have to be taken before the syndicate can even touch what you got. But if you are a fucking gang stalker and you die, it goes to the syndicate. It doesn't go to you. So you sold your soul for what? What, so you could feel better than the next person? It's literally costing you your ability to ascend up the property ladder. It's costing your ability to have ownership. It's costing your ability to even complain about the things that you get, because the second you step out of line, they can rip it away from you. Even though I do know some gang stalkers that have been able to get help from the council, but again, it's at a huge cost. It's at a huge cost. And I had my mind entirely in the wrong place. That's why, and the friend told me this months ago about the syndicate taking ownership of Perp's properties and shit. Like the syndicate, not the syndicate, but this friend told me about this a long time ago, and now I can't get it out of my head. I'm thinking, it should have been this simple all along. It should have been this simple. Annexing resources. That's what this whole thing is about. That's what this so-called behavioral experimentation, like I said, it's layer upon layer of deceit. It's layer upon layer of it. Now, this is not true. Well, I don't know if it's true or not, like I said, but I believe it could be because of the amount of money that's already being spent. I believe it. But it's just layer upon layer of deceit. Like, first it's behavioral experimentation. Then it's fucking torture and trafficking. There's so many different layers to it. It's like behavioral experimentation, unlawful surveillance, trafficking, and now annexing of resources. It's like a layer upon layer of lies that all lead to one place. It's all about annexing fucking resources. The amount of people dropping like flies. Where are all their properties and their resources going? Especially if they were perps. Where is their shit actually going? especially if they're perps. That's why I believe that the syndicate thing could be true. That's exactly why I believe it could be true. Because it costs too much fucking money. You've got the police involved. You've got psychiatry involved. Again, if you're going to experiment with electronic weapons on people, you're going to debilitate people. You're going to pay people to cover up the truth about the injuries. All of that is money. All of it. All of it is money. So I believe it. I believe that, you know, the perps have to hand over the ownership of their property just to be able to. I believe it. I believe it, bruh. I also believe it that if they even dare ask for anything more as a result of the protection they've been given, immediately, ain't no fucking debate. Because the perps, in terms of insurance, I'm guessing that the perps would go real fucking cheap. They would go real fucking cheap for the simple reason that they were more easily turned than the people they're torturing now. Or they have previous criminal records. Like, if you want cheap labor, who do you call? You call a fucking criminal. You call a fucking criminal for cheap labor. You want cheap labor, call a criminal. It's really as simple as that. And if you're not a criminal on the outside, meaning you don't have a record, then again, it's about trading secrets. The more secrets you have, the more skeletons you have in your closet, the more you can be bargained with. Again, a lot of people in power have secrets up the wazoo. They can be bargained with because of the secrets that they have to hide and that they have to kill people to keep hidden. If you want to go cheap, you want to save money, you call a criminal. And plus, when you hire criminals or when you get people to commit crimes, there's a lot that you can bury. Again, it takes extra paperwork to do it, but there's a lot that you can bury. Especially when you use criminal networks. Not a lot of traceability. Not a lot of traceability. So yeah, the whole time perps have been out here gleefully killing and torturing you, not realizing that because they're gleefully killing and torturing you, they don't own shit. They don't own shit. They hand over all their rights. They don't own they don't own a fucking thing and never will. Now, if they're lucky, they might have generations of criminals, generations upon generations of criminals, leading this world into absolute chaos, leading our countries, the UK and the US, into absolute chaos on the Five Eyes' behest. They might have generations upon generations getting away with crimes, getting away with genocide, but that's it. There's nothing in it. If that isn't a fucking metaphor for the global oppression that is going on, if that's not a metaphor, you're sacrificing all your land rights, all your sovereignty, just with the ability to hurt someone else. Just with the ability to hurt someone else. If that shit don't leave you dead inside, oh boy. If that shit don't leave you dead inside, my guy, oh boy. So yes, the syndicate thing, you've got to hand over all your property to the syndicate. I believe it could be true. Again, I don't know if it is, but it probably is. Because there's just too much money wrapped up in gang stalking for it not to be true. All the insurance has got to be paid. There's so much that has to be paid for. The financial abuse, that has to be paid for. All of that has to be paid for. I do wonder if under gang stalking that the neighbours can get together and file lawsuits against councils and landlords? I'm betting they can't. I'm betting they can't. They might be able to. It might not make a difference at the perps, but I'm betting that they can't. I'm betting that they can't get together and file a class action lawsuit. Because they're criminals. Who's going to take them serious? And as for the people in Brent Council protecting some of my neighbours over there, or protecting some of my traffickers and my murderers over there, I gotta wonder, like, how many of them are in leagues together because they couldn't get together and file a class action lawsuit. I know they couldn't. They got too many skeletons in the closet. They couldn't get together and file a lawsuit against their landlords about shit. They can't do it. There's a reason they can't do it. So, truth be told, what they're actually doing is they're operating as placeholders for very few people in power to have access to as many properties and as much land as possible and as much money as possible so that they can control everyone else with it. Like, just on a rudimentary level with Brexit and everything else that's happened, and with fucking, you know, changes to landlord rules or eviction rules, all these types of things, that is aimed towards annexing resources from as many people as possible and putting it into the hands of as very few people as possible. So why would it be any different with gang stalking? Why would it be any different with gang stalking? It wouldn't. So there's the illusion of ownership that you have as a higher ranking perp. There's the illusion of ownership. The property is in your name. At the same time, though, it is an illusion of ownership. I believe that it's an illusion of ownership. I believe that the only thing that's being passed down generation to generation is immunity from prosecution. And even then, that doesn't last either. Because how long is it going to be before perp bloodlines die out? I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just fucking saying. How long is it going to be before perp bloodlines die out? Who gets the properties? The syndicate does. Stop it. Just stop it, man. Yeah. So I absolutely do believe in this theory that higher paying perps or perps who actually own properties, they have to hand over all their shit to the syndicate. I believe it. I believe it. Again, when you really peel back the layers, there's just too much fucking money involved in all of this shit, involved in doing this and keeping it quiet. There's too much money, too much paperwork. You've got to have some level of insurance, other than just funneling money into whatever assets you've put money into. You have to have collateral as well. And that collateral can come from the properties that the higher ranking perps hand over. You've got to have some kind of plan. So after all of that, what are you really left with? You ain't left with shit. Not left with anything. So yeah, I believe it. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's true. If it's not, I don't mind the consequences if it turns out not to be true. But I personally believe it's fucking true. Because again, there's just too much money involved in having people commit crimes and covering up those crimes. Not even covering up those crimes, having police and mental health and emergency services covering up those crimes. There's too much money involved. Too many fingers and too many pies. There's no way. There's no way they're going to be doing all that and not getting something out of it. And a lot of people that are stalking me are mentally ill as well. Are mentally ill. Like, some of them have even been in hospital, been sectioned way more numerously than I have. What do you think is going to happen to their properties? They keep proving time and time again that they're even less equipped to deal with life than I am. And yet, they're driving. They got properties. But where do you think those properties are going to go? They're not going to keep it. They haven't kept it. I'm just saying, baby. When in doubt, follow the money. Follow the money. Do you understand what I'm saying? But this was a pretty vague video. Like I said, this is a theory that could be true. But I don't know if it... Well, no. It's true. There's no way it isn't. I believe it is. If I'm wrong, I'm willing to stand on my square, right or wrong. I believe that the syndicates are taking the assets of all the higher ranking gang stalkers who join. And they're replacing those assets with pay and with holidays and with coupons and with this, that, and the third. Trinkets. Just like with major celebrities, just like major celebrities apparently have black cards with unlimited budgets on it. That acts as both debt and an allowance. I believe that absolutely could be true. There's no way it ain't. Not the way this world works. You know, knowing me, I'm right on the broader aspects. It's just the details I'm lacking clarification on. You know what I mean? But all of this comes with a price. Being able to murder somebody, being able to fire electronic weapons on somebody, being able to break into somebody's house every fucking day that they're out, that comes with a price. In fact, truth be told, by me jamming in the house every day, I'm actually saving people money. By me being fucking too paranoid to go out, because the thing is, the gang stalkers love to try to say, paranoid. Baby, I'm actually saving you money. You should be thanking me. You should be thanking me. I'm saving you motherfuckers money. And truth be told, if you're debilitating me by attacking my hips and my back, you're keeping me in the flat anyway. So what is there to talk about? Hitting my chest and giving me clots and all kinds of shit. You're trying to keep me in my house anyway. So like, I don't understand what I don't know what the arse you're talking about. I don't understand what you're talking about. I'm actually saving you money and saving you paperwork. Please stop it. Stop. I'm sorry, the whole thing is just... I shouldn't laugh because of what's happened, because of people that have already been killed and people that are being tortured way worse than me. I shouldn't laugh. But the shit is just morbidly hilarious. Like the amount of shit that is being given up just so that some people can enjoy bullying you. Baby, that could never be me. That couldn't be me. That couldn't be me. Do you know how much I'm losing? I've got people on my Facebook right now that can see all this, that can see all the TI talk. I'm losing opportunities because of that. I'm losing publicity because of that. But I would rather have that than get the crappy deal that they're getting. Because at least then I have a clean conscience. Lord have mercy. You could... No, absolutely not. You're telling me I got to hand over my rights so that I can feel better than someone else. I got to let this whole world go to ash just so that I can feel like I'm ruling it. Fuck off. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You got me fucked up. So nobody owns anything. As long as you're in the gang stalking and you're part of the experiment, nobody owns anything. Not worth it. Not worth it. Or the dead inside that you've got to put up with when you reach a certain level of power, and even then you don't own shit. All that talk about, oh, you can't take it with you when you die. You can't take it with you now. Not even when it has your name on it. You can't take it with you now. Bitch. Drop me out of it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. But anyway, I gotta go. This wasn't a good video. This wasn't a good video. I know it isn't. But it's like, I just had an idea in my head. I couldn't get it out of my head. I'm thinking that has to be accurate. Because how are all these things being paid for? There's not just an unlimited budget from the government. Our governments are in debt. It's got to be more than that. The whole planet is trillions of dollars in debt. This shit has got to be coming from somewhere. It's got to be coming from somewhere. There's no way. The amount of insurance, the amount of paperwork, assets, liabilities, all that shit. There's no way. No way it's not true. So at the end of all that, nobody gets anything. Nobody gets anything. Not a fucking thing. Apart from maybe immunity from prosecution. And even then, within the criminal world, there are still hierarchies within the criminal world. We've known this to be true. Again, look at the media. Most of the criminals within the higher echelons being exposed are black, brown, and Jewish. There's a reason for that. There is a hierarchy to criminal activity. There's a hierarchy to it. Don't let nothing fool you. The most powerful people in the world, we don't know who they are. We don't know who they are. We don't know who they are. And they're not fucking, and they don't have to be balling like a Rothschild or a royal. They don't have to be balling like that to be the higher echelons of whatever syndicates that are gang stalking us, or whatever alchemical fraternities or sororities that are gang stalking us. They don't have to be rich to be at the top. They just have to be able to wield secrecy better than anyone else. You know what I mean? And after all that, you don't even keep your money. You don't even keep the assets. You don't even keep your ill-gotten gains. The fuck? That's why I always say to you guys, and I know people aren't going to take me seriously because, hello, but listen. All that glitters isn't gold. All that glitters isn't gold. The amount of times life has had to kick my ass for me to get that. All that glitters is not gold. Your integrity is worth way fucking more. And I had to get my ass kicked repeatedly just to figure that out. Just to figure that out. God damn, man. After all that, and what do you get out of it? You're insured, but you're insured cheaper. You're not even premium. You can be easily replaced. And on top of that, you don't own anything that you have. That gets either handed over to the syndicate, or if you're a mentally ill perp, to the state. If you don't have any family. Like, I feel like that these people should thank their lucky stars they got family. But even then, when you have a big enough family to eventually own private property, you are still going to be perps, which means your property goes to the syndicate. It does not belong to you. Jesus. Belongs to you in name only, and that's it. That is it. Dang. Not worth it. Not worth it. Not worth it at all. That's how this world works, though. It's like, you can reach success quickly. Like, you can do it. You can reach success really quickly. But then you have to give up a little bit of your soul to do it. And at the end of it, it just isn't worth it. It's not worth it. So, boy, I gotta go. Again, it wasn't a good video. It was just really just ranting and hypothesizing. But yeah, there's no way you're gonna have a big ass operation like this and not insure it and not have plans in place, to have collateral. There's no way. And when it comes down to it, whether it's the obvious things going on in the world or whether it's gang stalking, it's all about annexing resources. You know how many old people are out here dying off in droves? That's not by accident. There are a lot of boomers out there who have property. Think! Boomers are among the wealthiest generations that we have, and they're dying off. Think! This is the generation that were able to fucking, at least rent houses for cheap, if not buy them outright. And the generation before them bought their houses. There are a lot of older people being killed off here. Where do you think their resources are going? Going into the hands of the, if the elder people don't have relatives, they're going into the hands of the state. And if if their family members happen to be perps, they're going back into the syndicates' hands. Annexing resources. That is at the root of why so many people don't have their land. It's partially because of gang stalking. Yes, it's not the entire picture. We all know that. But there's also annexing of resources going on under the table. No, I believe it. I don't care. I don't care. Yeah, it's just too much money. Too much money for it not to be true. It's not just enough to, to have people be in poverty through policy. That's not enough. You've got to actively will people towards their own self-destruction. Boy. Again, couldn't be me. Could not be me, I'm telling you. And just, getting all of this for what? Becoming a perp for what? The illusion of protection. And that's literally all it is. Oh. Yeah. I don't know. Was there something else I was supposed to say? Yeah, I think that's it. Maybe it's not. My intuition does this thing where it kind of gives me a little ding and I have to kind of wait for it to play out. Let's get into the, defense systems. They're worth billions already. These weapons that are being fired on us. Worth billions. There's no way. The easiest ways to annex resources is to control the population. And in order to control the population, you have to control what they think. The 4 horsemen of the Bible, they are not a warning, they are a manifesto. You get people fighting with each other, you get people sick. It allows you to swoop in and annex resources underneath the people that you're killing off. That's the reason why they're killing off the middle class. That's the reason for almost everything. It's just to get resources, so that you can give a fraction of that back to the people. It's the manifesto. You get people killing each other. You get the perps and the TIs killing each other. Because there are people like Aaron Alexis who did take out some people before he left us. Right? You get people killing each other. And again, it's happening on a mass scale too. All these psychotropic weapons and these electronic weapons, directed energy weapons being used. They're being used en masse. Acoustic weaponry. Used en masse. It was responsible for, partially responsible for Operation Crimson Mist. I keep mentioning that. But look up Rwanda. You got people killing each other in droves because of these weapons. That's how powerful these weapons are. So ain't no way that they're not insured. And the amount of money it takes to have media, mainstream media, cover the shit up. The amount of money it takes to have MI5 cover the shit up. Apparently it's supposed to be foreign people that are doing this to us, and yet we have MI5 covering it up. Do you think I'm stupid? The amount of damage weapons like this have already caused, that's how powerful they are. They're literally so powerful, they created a genocide with relative ease. There is no way in hell they're not insured. And there is no way those weapons are not being used now with every major movement to get people fighting with each other, to get people killing each other, so that those resources can be annexed. Like, there is no way. There's absolutely no way. And people miss it because people are being paid to tell you that, gang stalking doesn't exist, that it doesn't have reach, that these electronic weapons don't exist, even though Lockheed have those weapons right on their page. BAE Systems have those weapons right on their page. Thales have those weapons right on their page, and yet they don't exist. The fuck? Do you know how much money it takes to be able to try to delude the masses? Not even try, successfully delude the masses on that level? Think about the money involved. Think about the money involved in that level of delusion. Of course, they're annexing land and houses through these contracts in gang stalking, as well as the policies that are being made on the surface level. And then now, at this time, right, we're encouraging people to, have their own land, have their own homes and farms and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I've been hearing that there are major tycoons buying up most of the lands already. You want people to live simple lives and grow their own food. They'd be growing food for the state. It would be like a literal Hunger Games. Whatever skills that we develop at home, whatever land we're growing, it would belong to the state. We already have allotments that are either privately bought or belong to the state. Like, the fuck, you are not thinking. Now, when it's too late to really do anything of significance, now everybody wants to live a simple life. Now everybody wants land and a house and to grow their own shit and to make their own shit. You would not be making it for you. Not at this point, not at this juncture. You would not be making it for you. And gang stalking facilitates all of that. All the major struggles and events that acoustic weapons and psychotropic weapons and directed energy weapons have a hand in, gang stalking is responsible for all of it. All of that, all of it. The killing off of elders, the annexing of resources, gang stalking is responsible for all of it. Of course they have to cover it up. And of course they have to spend money covering it up. Ain't no way. There is no way like this, that when you really step back and look, it's fucking wild. It's absolutely wild. And as for the right to bear arms, and as for this, listen, the anti-abortion thing, the right to bear arms thing, it's very obvious where this is going. That costs money too. That costs fucking money as well. Having children, do you know how much having children costs? And yet people are literally being fucking bullied into keeping their children when they don't want to not keeping their children. The amount of women that are being bullied or forced by law not to have abortions. Think about the cost it takes to actually raise a child, and think about the increase in crime that happens when there's increased poverty. Children are a liability. Love is a liability. Love is a liability. They might reward you for being married, but as soon as you have kids, all them rewards go out the window. All them rewards, all the tax reliefs, all that shit goes right out the window as soon as you have children. As soon as you have children, that ain't worth a fuck. Knowing how expensive those fucking children are, you're just breeding more war, more warfare, more poverty. You're just breeding an ant farm in which you separate them into workers and soldiers. And the workers will be working from home. It won't just be remote phone calls or tech support. Like I said before, the way they're slowly engineering it, they want it so that almost every poor person is making food or lending their skills towards bigger conglomerates. Think about the amount of smaller businesses that are being bought out by larger companies. All of that is for a reason. And also the charities. Oh my God, the charities. When I looked at, because I lived in a supported tenancy back in Cricklewood, right? When I looked at not who owned the property, but who was like a charity benefactor for Brent Mild, when I looked into the sheer amount of properties, the sheer amount of, assets that those benefactors owned, that's another way in which they can annex resources, through charity. It's not the same anymore. It's not the same anymore. But charity used to be exempt from taxes. When you start a charity, you start a charity for, that donates to specific organizations to ensure that they can have properties. You are indirectly controlling the properties, because when all is said and done, if you really wanted to, you could buy it back from the people that you donated to, or you could still be in ownership of it and just keep a very strong hierarchy of a chain of command so that you don't have to deal with certain things. So that's another way in which resources are annexed, through charities. Or at least they were. I don't think the tax laws on charities are the same anymore. Religion is another one. There is a reason why religions are not taxed. Truth be told, they're not supposed to be taxed, because the way they're supposed to work is that they're supposed to give back to the people. But again, charity just becomes another way in which to annex resources rather than give back to the people. You're annexing control of the resources under the guise of giving it back to the people, so that whenever things get a bit hairy on the economic front, you can take back those properties, flip them, and then sell it to people who can afford them, or sell them to people who have a mortgage. Again, I'm simplifying things. But again, it all comes back to the gang stalking. Again, there ain't no way. You're taking a piss. Yeah. There's so much to consider. And then I've already explained the generational aspects of it. And then you've got to talk about people in prisons. They're probably the cheapest labor when it comes to literally anything, gang stalking included. Especially if they come from backgrounds that are overlooked. They're the cheapest ones to hire. They're the cheapest ones to hire for the job, and low key, they're usually the most efficient. Now, just because, certain people are better at the job, it doesn't make them more evil. That's one thing that I want to absolutely stress. Just because you're better at gang stalking, it doesn't necessarily make you more evil. a lot of people are good at things that they hate. But prisons, yeah. Keeping the prisons overflowing. You know, if we have prisoners out of prison, they can also be hired for gang stalking for cheap. Saves money. Saves money, and the prisons are overflowing out here. What are the prisoners supposed to do? You got to give them some kind of outlet. You got to give them something. You got to give them something. You know what I mean? It's just like all the things that I'm talking about, the amount of money that goes into it. The amount of money that goes into all of this. Like, yo, and then you got to go into the councils. Oh my God. The councils are basically running on nothing at this point, but the connections of the council cannot be underestimated. They cannot be underestimated at all. The connections of the council are very, very important when it comes to how resources are annexed. Having people infiltrate the council, and not even just infiltration, but outward policies that are favorable towards homeowners and landowners. And even then, it's not even beneficial towards them. It's beneficial towards plutocrats, like I said before. Like, you know, taking away money from the council ensures that the council become enforcers for companies that would eventually privatize them. And quite invested enforcers at that. That's why the council, they're likely to help other perps, because the thing is that they have a vested interest in ensuring that private companies can annex the resources that they previously owned, that were previously state owned. So, yeah, shit is wild. And the amount of trafficking that goes on too. Underneath all of that, the amount of trafficking that goes on. And I'm not talking about targeted individuals. I'm talking about like trafficking, drugs, human trafficking, vice trafficking, arms dealing. You know how many fucking contraband items get handed over to perps in return for whatever property they would have owned? Baby, I'm just saying. You're talking drugs, you're talking arms, you're talking anything that some of the bigger gang stalkers want. Where do you think the toys come from? Where do you think the toys come from to give to the perps? You're not just out here robbing houses of TIs. In fact, the only reason why you're in there is to play games with TIs to make them feel like they're going mad. That's the only reason you're there. You're not there to actually take anything. And if you take anything, it has to be small. Because there has to be room for a spectre of doubt. You're not there to annex anything from TIs because you're already getting it from customs. You're already getting it from excise and customs. The amount of perps that get contraband shit, that's exactly what I'm saying. All of this costs money and costs paperwork. All of this has to be paid for. Why wouldn't property go back to the syndicate as soon as you signed your name? And on top of that, in order to be a perp, you got to sacrifice one of your family members. That's another thing they don't tell you. You got to sacrifice one of your family members. You got to make one of your family members a TI to keep yourself protected. At least one. At least one. So if you've got like, and I noticed this with families with strong military backgrounds as well, or some kind of military or engineering background. This is what I noticed, right? I noticed that within these families, there's always like a group of really, really good looking people and one that appears to be have been in and out of mental health facilities, that appears to be dumpy in comparison to the rest of them. I'm sorry, I don't mean to fat shame. I'm a bigger woman. I love bigger women. But really, really pay attention. There's always one in the family that is not as polished or put together as the rest of their family. I've noticed this with literally a lot of content creators that have come from military backgrounds or come from backgrounds like that. They're usually the screw ups. They're usually the ones that are putting themselves forward to receive the love that they should have gotten from their families. And they always look completely different to other family members who are good looking, who appear to have high paying jobs. That's because when you become a perp or when you become a stooge, you got to sacrifice one of your family members to be that motherfucking, to be that motherfucking stooge. You got to hand over at least one of your family members to this fucking shit. And even then, that same family member that you sacrificed, if they're not careful, they could be perps as well. So you sacrifice them for nothing. So you're sacrificing family members to be a perp. You're sacrificing property to be a perp. You're sacrificing money to be a perp. You are just playing a game in which you hand over all your resources to those who already have more money than God. That's all you're doing. And you're doing it just so that you can feel more superior to the next man. You will literally burn millions of pounds of your own money just to make sure that TIs don't have a penny. You couldn't pay me to do that shit. That's the stupidest shit I've ever heard of. You couldn't pay me to do that shit. I think I've hit the nail on the head here. I think that's what my intuition was. Because my intuition said, keep going, keep going, keep going. And I'm like, keep going for what? My logical mind takes time to figure it out. But yeah, all that sacrifice for what? Just so that you can feel better about yourself. If, like I said, if gang stalking is not a microcosm for the wider oppression going on in the world, because that's exactly how this shit works. You sacrifice everything just so that you could be violent towards someone else, and it's not worth it in the end. Oh, my back. So yeah, anyway, the more that I think about it, the more I'm happy to be the person that was chosen to be a TI. Because, boy, good looks ain't worth this. Good looks ain't worth this. Being rich ain't worth this. None of that ain't worth this. The approval of powerful people ain't worth this. None of that is worth it. Absolutely none of it. Fuck. One thing that I will say, though, is that homeless people and people who are vulnerable are also hired for this stuff. Now, with I used to think that, those people were probably the lowest form of scum, but now I get it. It's one thing for you to do that when you feel like you're close to death, but it's another thing to do that when you already have shit and you have the power to be able to speak the truth. Why are they coming to you asking you to sacrifice your family members and your assets if you did not have something that they wanted? If they honestly had nothing to lose, if they had nothing to fucking lose, they would not be blackmailing you. I gotta go. Take care. Bye-bye.